Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne here with you on this game day. It is Saturday in the South. A little bit of, whoops, here we go. Just a second. Golly. Okay.
I'm still going to call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because that's what it is. It is the Florida-Georgia game. I'm sick and tired of all these people trying to revisionize and just, saying all this stuff about, oh, hey, look, we're going to call it the game on the field. It's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Be responsible. Good God Almighty. Nobody's going to tell us what to think, how to think, when to do it. But lots to cover today. I got the schedule. I love this schedule put out by this business in Birmingham. It has every game. It has the time and everything. And it will. Sorry about that, Doug. Man, Doug, I'm fasting till 12. I was watching you in there. But a lot of games today. Ole Miss, Vandy, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Georgia is going to be the highlight. Auburn, Mississippi State. Look. There's good games all over the place every weekend. We're obviously myopically focused on the SEC, but there's good football played everywhere. I was telling my dad yesterday, what game's on tonight? I said, well, it's like I think it's Florida International and UNC Charlotte. He goes, what time? He doesn't care. He's a junkie. He's addicted to this stuff. But we do this 6 days a week, folks. Over 25 shows a month on average, over 300 shows a year. We take off every now and then, Christmas, New Year's Day, possibly, but we don't take off very often. We're not doing this part-time. We live by that motto. Repetition is the mother of all skill, okay? That's what we do. Doug Dean is ready to jump on here with us. And, Doug, are you down at beautiful Lake Martin, or are you in –
No, Mama and I have not one, but – both grandbaby duty to this weekend, which will be blissful. And, it was that week, the sad, bittersweet week, Rob, where you have to winterize your boat. Because you know what, next week, I'm sure in where you are too, it's dipping down into the mid 30s overnight, I think starting Halloween. So yeah, I've left the lake season other than just going to hang out there. Won't be doing any boating till spring. But we don't care because it's football season, it's hunting season. That'll go into Christmas season, and it just never stops in this beautiful cycle of living we have here in the South.
No, you're right. And Lake Martin coming up on the 100th anniversary of the lake, and going to be a big celebration. I think it's 1926 when the lake was built, and it's absolutely gorgeous, people. Lake Martin, and then there's Lake Logan Martin, Lake Eufaula. Alabama's got a lot of places. I think people underrate Northeast Alabama. Mount Cheaha is about 2,700 feet. Very similar to Arkansas when you get up there around Van Buren and Jasper. Idiot Savant Saturday alert. If you ever go to Jasper, Arkansas, it's home, and Frank is over there licking his chops to make this trip of the International Museum of Junk and other stuff. It's called the International Museum of Junk. But also, they've got over, I bet they're close to 800 or 900 elk now in the herd. And it used to be there were 12 elk tags issued a year in Arkansas. It's up to 20. And can't imagine what it takes to get one of those tags. But you go on the Arkansas on the Buffalo River. I think it was the first river that became a national park, the Buffalo, and it's really good for smallmouth bass fishing. Now, Spring River, White River, Little Red, they are as good as it gets for trout fishing. August 19th, we had 7 canoes, 14 of us. Like I said, 4 or 5 of the guys were combat ineffective and too drunk to fish is what that means. And we caught 209 rainbow trout. Not a bad day's work. And, of course, limit of 5 per fisherman, so we had to put a lot of them back. Well, no, Frank, I was going to say, we use those tongs. Do you like doing that, Doug? You're a sportsman. We use the tongs where we don't touch the fish.
Don't touch the trout.
Yeah.
And you release them back. I was going to say, if you kept those, I wouldn't have said that on air.
No. We only kept the legal limits, I promise you.
It reminds me of that Far Side cartoon. These 2 guys are fishing, and there's this nuclear mushroom cloud in the background. You know what this means, Joe? No size restrictions and unlimited bag.
Oh my God.
Hey, Rob, you know what? Today, you know what's special about today? And it has an Auburn and Arkansas connection.
Is it Tommy Tuberville's birthday?
You're close. Happy birthday to Gus Malzahn. And you know what, Rob? Notwithstanding the fact that his last few years, Gus thought we were playing 7-on-7 ball,
yes,
and that offensive linemen were optional. I've buried the hatchet with Gus. I mean, after all, he brought us. You know, he certainly did his part, bringing us an undefeated season in 2010. The defenses were just like LSU in 2019. They were just a game behind us, and we managed to get through the last one safely. And then he got us to the national championship game in 2013.
Yeah.
He gave us the kick 6 iconic, greatest play, walk-off ending in the history of all sports. So, there's plenty to like about Gus. Happy birthday to him.
Yeah, happy birthday. And I will say this, and Frank, you know, you get frustrated with Lester Miles or Coach O or whatever, but once they're in, they're family. They're family forever, and it's just the way it is. And my God, Gus is an iconic, godlike figure in high school football in Arkansas. And, you know, he may be controversial or whatever. Hell, we're controversial. Deal with it. But you know what? I will never, if his car had a flat tire, you know, Doug and I know Frank would pull over and help him change that tire. I would. I mean, you're right.
I would demand a supply of double bubble, you know, while I was working on it.
And a sweater vest hook up.
You're gonna think I'm crazy, and I even think I'm crazy about to say this, honest to goodness, because 5 years ago these words would have never come out of my mouth. Do not be shocked on the 25th anniversary of LSU's 2003 national championship team. If Nick Saban hangs it up in the next year or two, don't be shocked if he's with that team that's honored at halftime at LSU in the year 2028. Do not be shocked.
I would think he would be. I mean,
do not be shocked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago during that doldrums run. The salve that has helped us stomach the long, unending nightmare, which is watching Nick Saban win our national championships in Tuscaloosa, because every one of them would have been mine. I have no doubt in my mind. The salve was 2019. Having the greatest college football season of all time allowed us to have a little bit more perspective on Nick Saban. I don't bristle as much when I see him with banging on the podium with the Coke bottle or in the commercials with Dion. Somehow we've softened. It didn't hurt that we beat him in overtime last year. That felt good too. But, you know, you can't, despite the wokeness of some people in our country, you can't erase history. History is history. It is uncolorable. It is amending. It is what it is, though they try.
Yeah.
That's the thing about a Gus Malzahn. Even sadly, you know, as irritated as you guys are with Potato Boy, unfortunately, you're stuck with him. You're stuck with him at his. I'm stuck with Curly Hallman, the guy who lost back-to-back to Vanderbilt. I'm stuck with him. I can never wash that away, right? So it is what it is. And to Gus Malzahn, I will tell you, I do think he was a big part of that 2010 national championship.
You better believe it,
y'all. I watched that. I witnessed that. I witnessed Cam Newton play LSU in Jordan-Hare. I was there for that and watched that spectacle. That was an offensive juggernaut, but it was also a very balanced defense on that team as well.
Hey, Duff, I love you, man. I got a lot of love for the Duff. He's been a great host. I've tried to return the same favor, and I'll do that as many times as you can stand it in the future. Looking forward to it. But friends can be rational and have a mild debate or disagreement. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what, I want to call you out just ever so slightly. Okay. Because you're trying to slip one in on us. If you tell a big lie enough times, it becomes a truth.
Okay.
And that's about the 20th time you have declared that LSU's amazing, incredible undefeated season was the greatest of all time. And I guess hold on.
Fight over that one.
And look, I want to give you that if the measuring stick is strictly offensive production. That's indisputable. All right. But how did we get here that we're going to use style points of explosive offense? It isn't a win. And so that 2009 Bama season that was unblemished, Auburn 2010 unblemished, and we can debate till the cows come home, wherever they've been. Do we count style points? So I want to give you that. That's the most explosive offense in SEC history in a long, long time, maybe ever. But try to tell that to a 2010 Auburn fan or 2009 Bama fan.
Well, I will give the evidence of what I think is the most powerful explanation or powerful evidence of what my comment was.
Sure.
If you ever get a chance to pull up the morning after by Greenberg, what's his name? Mike Greenberg on ESPN.
Yeah.
Greenberg basically, when that next morning, he laid out the reason why LSU season was the greatest season of all time, and it wasn't close. And it wasn't so much all the offense; it was who we beat and the spreads in which we beat them. In fact, don't forget, Auburn gave us the best game the whole year. Y'all gave us the toughest game in Tiger Stadium without question. So, I will say there's two things that you cannot probably shake an LSU fan on at all. The greatest season of the greatest season in college football history in 2019, and the biggest disappointment for any LSU fan was 2011 having to play Alabama in the Superdome for the national championship, because that team their resume was better than the 2019 team if they could have closed it out. Those are the two unshakable, unflappable truths that will go with every LSU fan on their deathbed.
Fair enough. And I would expect no less from you. You make a powerful case, but Joe Burrow, I know Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow is no Cam Newton.
Hey, look, let's do this. We're going to bring in a proud native son of one of the coolest cities in America, because it spawned one of the great phrases. This is Broc Krietz on the left. A friend of mine I've known, God, for about 20 plus years, worked with him at Morgan Keegan, linebacker for the Ole Miss Rebels from Naperville, Illinois, home of Peyton Thorne. But he also, one day at work, I'm in there talking to him at Regions Morgan Keegan, I must add. He said, Bobby, you're going to have you a couple of road sodas? I'm like, what the hell's a road soda? That's what Broc up in Naperville, Illinois calls a cold beer. And of course, he came down here in 1993, signed with Billy Brewer, the dog. I mean, that is badass. That's Pat Dye used to say, how's a dog doing, from Columbus, Mississippi? And then in 94, he played for sockless Joe Lee Dunn, one of the great defensive minds ever. And then 95, 6, and 7, Thomas Hawley Tuberville. So Broc, you got to have a perspective that's kind of cool. And y'all remember when Ole Miss and Georgia played in 96? This is what he's famous for, that and being a hell of a financial advisor. He's great and a great dad. And he's also involved as a great, great German Catholic. He does a lot of work with CBHS football, middle school, youth football. He is kind of the Ward Cleaver of our day. But anyway, he and Walker Jones, linebackers for Ole Miss, tell that story to these guys. I'm not sure because this is going somewhere because y'all go to Athens, and the way Ole Miss is playing right now, it could be big. But how scary was it when y'all were down there about to seal the win? And Tommy Tuberville said you only had 46 scholarship players on the field when you went to Athens that day. This is a true story. It's guaranteed to be true.
Glad you guarantee it. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, so we 96 was a little bit of a tougher year because we were suffering from probation still. So anyways, we went down to Georgia and always loved playing down there. It's probably one of the best stadiums and just a cool campus and everything about it. Just the whole history of Georgia football. I know Rob is an Auburn guy. You don't like to hear that, but
no, it is a special place.
It is. It's a great place. So anyways, like Coach Tuberville had said, or Senator Tuberville, I should say, we had very few scholarship players. Well, heck, I was playing outside backer. That should tell you enough. Anyways, it was kind of back and forth. We had a great first quarter. I think we went up 14-0 on them. And then they just stormed back and I think scored 27 unanswered in the first half. And then, we go into halftime and, again, we'd been in that position. It'd been a tough year anyways, but, still high hopes and full of energy and everything else. And I think Georgia kind of thought, hey, we're going to lay down and came back the next half and we went up on them. I mean, we scored, I guess, 17 unanswered on them and went up 31-27 or something like that. And anyways, we pinned them at their 2. Mike Bobo was a quarterback, and of course Hines Ward, the great player from Georgia, was a receiver, and he catches a pass over the middle, and our DBs run into one another, and so Hines Ward is running down the sideline, and Walker Jones and myself, scared and running as fast as we can, somehow catch him and push him out, and end up stopping him for the victory. So, yeah, that was it was 27 years ago. Holy cow. So anyways, a great win. Yeah. Great win and against a great player, great team. And, this team with Ole Miss is a little bit different than what we thank God, but it's a great rivalry.
Hey, yeah. Broc, yeah. Doug Dean in Birmingham. Good to have you on the show together on this round table. First of all, congratulations to Ole Miss. I was in Jordan-Hare with my son-in-law last night. His college buddies. Still a great environment. Most Auburn people can be patient for a little while. We'd like that not to be required for 5 years, for God's sake.
Yeah, but you try to be an Ole Miss fan.
Yeah, I hear you. So we have kindred spirits a little bit on that score. But here's what tell me if I'm on track with what I saw from the great Lane Kiffin. In that I felt like Saturday night, and I'm sure the game planning leading up to it, that Lane Kiffin it was a step of growth for him. And I don't mean to say that he was immature as a coach schematically. He's brilliant. But I think you know what I mean. But what I saw from my north end zone perch is that Kiffin intentionally called a pretty conservative game. And I think I don't know, but I'm sure that this to a degree goes on in every game, but uniquely because Auburn doesn't have depth on defensive front we need. But I think he was running a pitch count on that Auburn front. He knows we've got a great secondary, and the way he was smart enough to know the way he could lose that game. We weren't going to score 28. Auburn wasn't.
Right.
But if he made mistakes and we got a pick six or caused sacks and pressures, that would be a way he could lose the game. And it was deep into the third quarter. It looked to me like he said, okay, Auburn looks just a half step tired now. We can start throwing. And he let Dart throw 2 back-to-back deep verticals, and they scored with the go-ahead score the last play of the third quarter. Am I on track? Was that coincidental, or is that kind of what you saw?
No, I think it was just great game planning. And I mean, any good coach, and again, Lane's maturing and has matured, obviously. And I think he understands. I mean, if you don't have to throw the ball, I mean, most coaches don't want to throw the ball. I mean, unless you're, Mike Leach, God rest his soul. But I mean, just, one of those things you want to run the ball, control the clock, and keep their offense, off the field. And I think he knew that, Auburn's offense was probably the weak spot. Your defense, Auburn's defense is, I don't remember a time when it's been bad. I'm sure y'all could tell me, but always a great defense, linebackers and D front. And, I think it's, it was a strategy for him that said, hey, we need to win this with defense. Like you said, don't make mistakes. Let them make mistakes, let them get tired down, and then we can hit them when we need to hit them. And I think it's a great strategy. And you don't need to, again, Auburn's offense is not what it's been in the past. It's not as good. And so you're forcing them, with the weak spot to try to have to beat you. And with your offense that, you can score at least a few touchdowns, and you can score quickly if you need to, right? If it did get to that point to where it was tight and needed to get a drive, he could do it. So I think it is, it's encouraging to see it. There have been some frustrating moments with Lane, but he's a fantastic offense coordinator and a genius at marketing. I mean, if anything else, that's probably his greatest talent, for lack of a better term. But I think he had a great game plan. Hey, let our defense keep us in this, and then we'll score, keep it simple, keep it conservative, and he did. I mean, it was 28-21. I mean, it's amazing how these bookies. I think the line was 6.5, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it always comes down. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's just
that's why those buildings in Vegas are so big and beautiful.
That's right. They don't win it for losing money. So, or build those things losing money. But anyways, I think, it's as a Ole Miss fan, and again, we've suffered, plenty of difficult years over since I've been associated, just put it that way. And it's great to see, us make those wins, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, it is tough to beat Auburn. I mean, if you're an Ole Miss fan, and we hadn't beaten them back to back, I think, since '52. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct.
And we played them when I was there, 5 years, and I mean, some of the years it was really tight, and especially down there, and we could never get over that hump. And one of the years, Patrick Nix, they were announcing he had surpassed the school record for passing in the third quarter as he was completing another pass. So that was a 46-10 or 49-10 beatdown. But anyway, so we're encouraged that things are moving in the right direction, and
you know what?
Give Andy.
This is not going to be music to my friend Duff's ears, and I'm not even saying it's likely. But here, Ole Miss sits in, let's call it November, and you're in the hunt. You got a chance to win the SEC West.
Yeah. We do. And as an Ole Miss fan, that's when you're like waiting for the rug to be pulled out from underneath you. So I think, I'm a Cubs fan too, so it's just natural.
Well, lifelong Cubs fan.
Yes.
It's obviously a big step in that is going to be next week when we go into Tuscaloosa. We'll see if we can beat the Tide, which we have much greater success in Tuscaloosa than we do in Baton Rouge historically.
Yeah.
And then if we get in that round robin where each of us has beat the other one, we're 1-1 against each other.
Yeah.
I think that game with Georgia is going to be, Ole Miss. If Ole Miss wins, I mean, they got to share. And look, it's above my pay grade to figure out who's going to go. I've always in those, three-way ties. I think you have to have a NASA scientist come in to, figure out how it's going to break out. But
really.
Yeah.
Hey, would the world would the earth stay on its axis if we had a Mizzou Ole Miss SEC title game?
Oh my God. Oh, good.
I mean, look, our buddies over there in Oxford know that Atlanta exists. They just don't have proof of it yet. That would be incredible, right? I mean, that would be off the charts. We kind of nudged them out the year with Eli. My buddy from New Orleans.
You did. You sure did. 03.
We tied together. In fact, it was kind of surreal being in Vaught Hemingway. I was there for our game this year when they, brought out the 03 team as the, and I forgot because of the share of the SEC championship.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Champions, right? And again, I really don't remember, other than the fact that we beat y'all was the deciding factor. But
yeah.
And by the way, I was there at that game as well when y'all went out early 7-0, and we had to fight back. Again, Saban's first run at the Natty. So I would think, being an Ole Miss guy, I'm great friends with a buddy of mine, Campbell McCool. He has a big real estate development there in Plain Air, right outside of Oxford. Lifelong Ole Miss fan. In fact, he's like third cousins to Archie, second or third cousins to Archie.
Yeah.
What is the feeling? Like you said, you feel like you're on that trajectory. I've been around Oxford when times are good, and there's there's really excitement in the air. The Grove is like on steroids. It's got to be a real good time right now for y'all. And a win, and that was a tough win against Auburn, going into Jordan Hare and winning that game.
Yes.
That was a gut check. So, what's the feel coming up? And you don't want to overlook Vandy, because you can't. But obviously, y'all are looking Georgia down the line.
It is, and Vandy's kind of that trap game, and we had one this year again with Arkansas. I mean, and again, that's another team that just continues to miss just by a little. I mean, they almost had y'all, and they played us a tough game. But yeah, Vandy's, it's just that trap game, and there have been times again when we've had trouble with Vandy, and so again, that's part of coaching. I mean, and get these guys to mature that, hey, let's take care of business. You should win this game. Well, hey, let's do our thing, and then we'll start working on A&M and then Georgia. And as far as the Grove and Oxford being on, I mean, it's already on steroids. I mean, just when you're even a normal season for the Rebels, but I mean, when you start to get some success, it's nothing you've seen before, and it's a great thing to be around. And unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of that in the past several years. But anyways, yeah, it's awesome.
Well, the tailgating this year was exceptional. Just somehow my seafood gumbo just does not taste good in a sterling silver tureen. I don't know why. I just can't get it to taste good.
And a chandelier.
I just can't do it.
Yeah, and a chandelier above your head. Yes.
Things we didn't, every year brings some surprises, usually in the form of shocking upsets. But I was talking to a good Bama man who played there, and I said, do you remember a year that this far into the season, there were arguably mathematically at least, I guess 5 SEC teams who still have a say in what happens, or 4 or 5 head coaches who should be on the short list for Coach of the Year. And right now, there's no question in my mind, if Lane Kiffin just finishes strong here, which they have a chance to do, the Georgia game's a biggie, and if he wins that one, Lane Kiffin's would have my vote for Coach of the Year. Yeah, you can't overlook, if you adjust for degree of difficulty and roster, you can't overlook Drinkwitz at Mizzou. And then, of course, if I've said before on Rob's show, if Alabama, both of them, if Kirby, after all they've been through, if he can three-peat or just finish the regular season undefeated, I might not particularly like Kirby, mostly because they beat Auburn all the time. But that Kirby would be deserving of it. This would be Saban's greatest coaching job if they managed to run the table and win it all. So you got 4 guys making a case for that. And by the way, Broc, it's well documented that it was not a charade that Lane Kiffin potentially was going to head over Auburn's direction. I'll let each fan decide how real that was versus, negotiating leverage with Jimmy Sexton.
Right.
And I've got nothing but love for the Ole Miss fan base. Yeah, but I think to the extent there was any venom from fans at how that went, I think Lane has erased every bit of it by winning, right?
Yeah, winning has that effect, doesn't it? So,
yes.
It does. It does. Hey, Broc, hold that thought. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back. I want to continue. This is great stuff. And by the way, Frank, We got Tanner brought a bunch of his buddies, 7 of them up here from Lake Charles and DeRidder and down in Louisiana. They got up here yesterday afternoon. They're out there goose hunting. Well, some of them are. I think the poker game, last I checked, I'm not kidding you, it was 4 o'clock this morning. The Louisiana boys were down in the basement still playing. So
it might not have been poker. It might have been bourrée.
That's right. And there's only there's 3 of them still in bed that did not make the wake up call. But I got to tell you what's on the menu when we come back. Let me say something about one of our sponsors, Gateway Tire and Service Centers. They go the distance for the customers in the communities where they work. Find their locations all over the South. Gateway Tire and Service Center, proud to have them as a sponsor. Also, Boy Scouts, support the Boy Scouts, get involved, be a leader. Kids need to learn at a young age valuable survival skills, how to clean a fish, how to gut a deer, how to properly shoot a gun and unload a gun, how to shoot a bow and arrow, all the great stuff, old school stuff, great stuff. And also Reforest, Mississippi. I know our sponsor, Gateway Tire and Service Center, that is his passion, as well as those crosses you see all over the state of Mississippi and around the South. That's his passion as well. We'll take a quick break. Be right back. We've got Frank Duffy over in Big Canoe in the mountains of North Georgia, Doug Dean in beautiful Vestavia Hills, Alabama, and Broc Krietz there at Hard Rock USA in Memphis, wearing I think that's Christian Brothers High School, The Rock, where I graduated from. But we'll take this break and be right back with more college football on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with you on this Saturday morning roundtable sidelines. We're over here broadcasting live from the Cherry Farm here in Lee Hall on a kind of a rainy, misty Saturday morning. Broc, you live up here. It's about to change. We've been in the mid and upper 80s all week long, and Monday, Tuesday, Halloween night, Tuesday, and we're going to do a hayride over here for a bunch of the kids in parking. About 100 of them, they said. So it's going to be fun. and I'm sure they're all nice and respectful. Yeah. So it's going to be about 30 degrees. It's going to be fun. We're going to take them up to the cemetery and tell some ghost stories with them, have some fun. But Doug, I know you've got something you wanted to tap into when we came back out of the break, and let's keep it going. And Broc, look, really appreciate you joining us on the round table. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, enjoy it, guys. Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
your insight is fantastic. So, Doug, I want to hear this. This is interesting.
Yeah, kind of. First of all, Rob, you need to move Broc to the A team, the first rotation on the show. He brings class and a lot more football knowledge than I'll amass in my remaining days. But
it really is.
Let's zoom out for a minute to the strategic landscape of college football. And of course, our focus and interest is the SEC. Y'all may have gotten the same intel, and it's not particularly top, Pentagon secret or anything, but Commissioner Sankey's eye is first and foremost on North Carolina if with conference realignment. Now, I might, for my own reasons, mostly culturally, I don't think of UNC and they're I don't want to be unkind, but they don't feel like Deep South when I interact with them. Sometimes they have maybe a little bit of a superiority complex academically, but Commissioner knows more than I ever will, along with ESPN and Fox Sports, about how you build a footprint and TV revenue. So frankly, I'm ecstatic with the 16 teams we're going to have starting next year, as if the degree of difficulty is not high enough. If you're not one of the top 2 or 3 dogs with NIL, flush with NIL cash. But keep an eye on possibilities of FSU, Clemson, UNC. And I'm told that wherever UNC goes, UVA, Virginia would want to follow them.
That's going to be the 4th one. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, man, you talk about if you get to that would be 18 or 20 SEC teams. We are fast, which everyone knew, we're fast headed toward the AFC and NFC model of college football. And so I would footnote, I'd love to hear y'all's reaction to what you would do if you're Sankey and these power brokers, including the Big 10 and Big 12. I think that I would expect a minimum of 3 SEC teams starting next year to be, get a shot in the 12-team playoff. Brock?
Mm-hmm. I thought, again, I mean, expansion, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? But I love North Carolina. I think just the history of just their sports and that school and everything else. I agree with you, the cultural aspect of it. But beautiful campus, beautiful area. It fits in that footprint, and I think it holds together the integrity of just the South. It's I think of the Big Ten and these other conferences, and I think USC is in the Big Ten now, so they're going to have to play Rutgers. I mean,
doesn't break
to
the
me,
footprint. It doesn't break our footprint.
If your footprint's the entire United States, but I don't want the SEC to turn into something like that, and I think it's getting to that point to where it's. I mean, like you said, the competition is silly, and yes, I'm a little bit sad about we'll lose some of the games, the rivalries and stuff that we played before, but again, we'll keep some of them, and then we'll create new ones. So I think if you get in North Carolina, I don't know about Florida State or somebody else, but I think North Carolina would be a fantastic addition, because I'm sure if we don't add them, somebody else is going to look to grab them, and I think that's a really good market and obviously a huge opportunity. So I'm excited about that, and as long as my whole thing is just keeping the integrity of the Southeastern Conference, and I know it's a little spread out to the South, but at least keep it in the South and get those good competitive teams, and don't just do it simply for the dollars, but to put together some great rivalries and a great conference. And, I think he's done a good job.
Imagine a USC women's volleyball team flying across the country for a game on a Wednesday night, getting back God knows when.
Against Rutgers.
Yeah. And imagine the cost. I mean, what's the cost?
Yeah. Hey, Bo, Brock, Kevin, this is Broc Krietz, friend of mine that played for Ole Miss.
Hey, Kevin.
Interesting story. 93 with the dog, Billy Brewer, came down from Naperville, Illinois. 94, sockless Joe Lee Dunn. 95, 6 and 7, Tommy Tuberville. So we got a kind of cool perspective. We're having a little fun on the round table. But I like what this guy says. Mark in Knoxville, UNC is more Ivy than Southern. Do they eat boiled peanuts up there? That's a test.
No, but Kevin, they got cat head biscuits that are pretty darn good.
Yeah. Remember this, Brock. Kevin came down from Pottsville, PA in 83, 84, moved to the Wiregrass of Alabama and never went back. He's a Phillies fan. You're a lifelong Cubs fan. Y'all are loyal. Y'all know what loyalty is.
Yeah.
It's something to do with the Catholic Church and loyalty, and a little bit of guilt thrown in there too.
and lots of heartbreak.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, Kevin Scarbo, good to see you, man.
Hey, guys.
You're writing an article, and you actually have written an article this week in your excellent email newsletter, which I recommend to everyone. What would be your lead story on this college football today, and comment on all of that?
Love that. Wow. So nationally, it's I look at two games. Obviously, Georgia, Florida. How does Georgia look without Broc Bowers? They had a week off. Florida had a week off. Florida's gotten better. They've improved. But I thought I don't know who, I wish I could remember who made this analogy, and I thought it was apt that Georgia's a more talented Kentucky in the way they play. They can line up and try to bully you, and that's what Kentucky did to Florida. So we'll see how much progress Florida has made on the front seven, or in the front seven particularly, because they got bullied up in Lexington. So that's obviously a big game. And then Oregon at Utah. Utah may be the best program in the country that gets the least credit for it.
Yeah.
No one seems to respect them. No one seems to think of them as much of a threat or as a championship contender. And yet they just keep winning.
They sent USC into oblivion.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, the difference, you talk about the importance of toughness in a program, Frank. It clearly, Utah has it, and USC under Lincoln Riley does not.
Yep.
And that was, that was another example of the job that Kyle Whittingham has done. It's been pretty amazing. He may be the most underappreciated coach in America as well.
He should be on everybody's short list if he's willing to leave Utah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Doug. He may be just one of those guys that he's been there so long. He's part of the culture there. He established the culture there, and no matter what, he likes it there. That's who he is, where he belongs.
A Don James like at Washington.
Yeah.
That's
Broc,
good.
I
I
want
think
to
that's
ask
a good
you.
analogy, Frank.
Yeah, I want to throw a question to Broc, having come down from Naperville, Illinois. And Kevin, he gave us one of the great terms of all time for a cold beer, a road soda. I mean, you can't get that's. I use that term every day. In fact, I got the guy over here at the farm to fix one of our garbage containers. He welded some new wheels on there. And you know what the payment was? A slab of Michael Jordan's delicious ribs and 2 ice cold Hams beers. I thought the guy was going to cry. I'm sure it was because Hams is so good. Notice the sign in the back. Broc, tell us what, growing up in a big German Catholic family with great parents. And, I've known you since 2001, I guess. What was it like when you came from Big Ten country up there down to Ole Miss, and you had scholars like Tim Bowen, who was working on his master's on
You're not from around here, are you, boy?
Yeah. That was I was a good Notre Dame fan too. Being a big.
There you go.
Oh my God.
It's part of the deal.
I'm an Irish. Yeah, that's part of the deal.
I'm with you there, Broc.
It was tough to cheer for Illinois at that time. So it was Big Ten football, and again, they have good football. I mean, it's usually good defense and usually have great quarterbacks. I mean, they've always had great quarterbacks coming out of there, but a little bit different. Actually, my brother was a big time UT fan growing up. I mean, and again, being still up in Chicago, he used to love, somehow we got the UT game, and he loved watching. And I think it was just maybe the style of offense and the speed and everything else. But yeah, I mean, coming down for the first time, it was a bit of a culture shock. And it was different, and I mean, looked like I went back in time a little bit. Yeah, and I mean, but look, I'm still here. I loved it, every bit of it. I had a chance to leave, I guess, when we went on to probation, and I didn't want to leave, and I had made a commitment to Ole Miss, and I loved it, regardless of that was when Tuberville came in, and anyway, so I mean, it's one of the best decisions I made in my life. And I think back, I try to get my family to move out of Illinois down here, and it's tricky, but yeah, it's, I have no desires to go back north.
What you're saying is
way.
what you're saying is the Confederate Army monument in the town square was following you with his eyes. That's what you were saying.
Oh yeah. My
well,
good friend.
You married a girl
Walker
from the
Jones.
Delta.
Yeah,
You know?
she's from Clarksdale. Ashley's from Clarksdale. So
Yeah.
and
Carpet
throw a
bagger.
twist in there. Her entire family are Mississippi State fans. So it was
His mama.
wow.
Hey, his mama didn't raise no fool. Broc was raised smart.
That's right. That's right. And so, anyways,
you don't see those up in Notre Dame. You don't see that up in there.
Rob, I want to lob a ball to the great Kevin Scarbinsky to react to concerning Lane Kiffin. I'm still licking my Auburn wounds from. It wasn't the most surprising thing in the world that they just their system is just really hitting on all cylinders, and he's adjusting. The Alabama game is what it was, but they're adjusting their system depending on the opponent. But it occurs to me in this NIL age, on the one hand, whoever's got the cash, the NIL cash, will win big. On the other hand, Lane Kiffin's stock, I think, is going through the roof because he can sign classes that are 19th, 26th, depending on the service if you believe those evaluations. And he's so good at player evaluation and then putting the systems in place and he seems to rarely miss on these portal transfers. Hugh Freeze has had trouble with this, hastily assembled portal, especially at wide receiver. But you agree with me that Kiffin is becoming quite a valuable commodity for Kevin for some of those reasons?
Well, what you want to see from coaches, we think about this with players, but you want to see it from coaches too. You want to see them grow. You want to see them develop. And I think the Auburn game was a good example, Doug, of what you're talking about, of Lane Kiffin as a strategist. He knew he didn't have to score 60 points to win that game. So they didn't throw the ball all over the lot. They didn't have to. They didn't have to take as many risks. And of course, getting Quinshon Judkins back healthy, he is just so impressive. So they leaned more on the running game. And he was content to win a lower scoring game. And that's not easy to do, especially if you're one of those guys that's been labeled an offensive guru. Josh Heupel's another one.
Maturity.
And look at the way Tennessee beat Texas A&M before they went to Tuscaloosa and had an up and down visit to Bryant Denny. But you got to be able to adapt. And of course, Nick Saban's the best example of that of all. The way he's adapted, and of course, the biggest way he adapted from a strategic standpoint was hiring Lane Kiffin as his offensive coordinator, bringing his offense into the modern age, and being content to win games 52-49 or scores like that, and not insisting that you have to win. That the way football should be is 17-10 or 10-7. Being flexible, being adaptable, and players see that. And that's why you saw Alabama's quarterback recruiting go to another level when Lane Kiffin was there. And all of a sudden, they're bringing in guys who are becoming NFL draft choices and starters in the NFL at that position, where they didn't have that before. And I think that's what Lane is showing, is that growth and maturity as a head coach. And it just seems like a fun play. Look, if you were a 18, 19, 20-year-old and you were talented enough to play in the SEC, Ole Miss just seems like a fun place to play.
Come to the SIP,
doesn't it? I mean, and they've done a great job of marketing, of creating that atmosphere. So for those reasons, Lane Kiffin is maybe not the perfect coach for this era, but he's on the short list.
Meanwhile, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just going to say,
I've been to Vaught Hemingway for about 15 LSU games over the years, going back to like 1981, 82, my first trip. The atmosphere this season was unlike anything I experienced in Vaught Hemingway.
Yeah. Yep. Another thing about Ole Miss is, like, my dad's 95. He is listening right now, and he's going to correct me if I make a mistake. But as a kid, and they would go to Crump Stadium in Memphis. They used to play these double headers down by the medical center and UT Medical School downtown. It would be Mississippi State and Tennessee, Ole Miss, Memphis or something, and they'd sneak into the games there at Crump Stadium. And, Dad grew up pulling for Ole Miss and watching Ole Miss, and was actually going to be a preferred walk-on, I told you, going to LSU. And about a month before school started, he was going to be a field goal kicker, having gone to Christian Brothers High School. And so right at the last minute, a spot at Auburn opened, and he caught a train and took the train and landed down there in Auburn. You could take a train back in those days. But Ole Miss, Elvis was an Ole Miss Rebel, Broc. You know that. George Klein, his best friend from, third grade, said Elvis always wanted to be an Ole Miss Rebel. That legacy, Johnny Vaught, 1947 to 72. Then he came back in 73. 196 wins, 6 SEC championships, 3 national championships. Hell, you and I worked with George Lauderhaus, and we worked with some. I know a lot of Ole Miss people. I'm going to say with Frank, I've been to 52 games at Vaught Hemingway. I have the best damn time when I'm down there because I have so many Ole Miss friends. And maybe Audrey's right. She goes, Rob, you get as excited about the fan bases of the schools that you're talking about as their own fans do, or more. I think it's the coffee. I don't know what it is, but I'm so comfortable in how much I love my school, Auburn. I don't spend time hating. It's just I've never been to mass where the priest said hate on things. I just love my school. If you beat us, first off, congratulations, Broc, last weekend for that visit. My phone screen was breaking with all the hottie, Rob, hottie down. Chris Perkins reminded me, Bobby, Auburn, first time since 1952. I said, well, I wasn't there, but go ahead, Doug.
Well, I was just going to say to the viewers, welcome to this Saturday of covering state of Mississippi exclusively college football. But they earned it. And then, we all miss the great Mike Leach. And Broc, I bet you'd be the first to say even Ole Miss fans miss a colorful, brilliant strategist like that. And the Egg Bowl was taken to another level, getting to watch those two offensive geniuses go at it year after year. But I'll tell you who else misses Mike Leach is Mississippi State's offense. And, I'm in a glass house here throwing stones at speaking of Auburn's offense. But I'll tell you, this Mississippi State offense, my goodness, it almost makes me feel at least hopeful about Auburn's offense because they have the 4th fewest total offensive plays run this year. Hail State does. And of course, since they're playing Auburn today, they'll get well and they'll probably have 80 plays and ring up 31 points. You know how that goes with just Auburn being Auburn. But I think it's a foregone conclusion that Zach Arnett is going to feel a lot of pressure conceivably to make a change. Is what coaches do to buy themselves a little more time, make a change at OC after the end of the year. Anybody can react to that.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
Broc?
Say, my 2 oldest are in Fayetteville, at Arkansas. I call them my defectors because instead of going to Ole Miss, they went there. Anyway, great school and stuff like that. But we were up there just for a quick visit, and they played State last week, and that thrilling 7-3 victory or loss.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's both those programs I think are just struggling a little bit, and I believe Arkansas just got rid of their OC.
Yeah. For $3 million.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just one of that thing. And it's unfortunate about, that kind of money is that you win now or, you're gone. And it is what it is. But yeah, it's some changes are going to happen. And, State was in a difficult situation. I mean, obviously Mike Leach coming along and trying to find a coach at that point. And obviously he's a well-respected guy and, doing what he can, but yeah, there's going to be, I think, a lot of changes down there coming over the next few months.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Kevin, looking at it from your perspective, and you're, by the way, pretty cool yesterday. I wish you'd have been on the show. We had Coach John Brady on the show in the second segment. Doug, Frank's friend, and he's on with us during basketball. He's been on the last couple of weeks. So yesterday he goes, you're not going to know where I am, Rob, because I'm in a place like where you are at a hunting camp down in Poplarville, Mississippi. I'm with a friend of mine, and he goes, come over here. And he goes, you ever heard of Tim Floyd? And I said, oh, hell yeah. So Tim Floyd joined us for about 14 minutes yesterday. Hell of a lot of fun. And I forgot Tim Floyd's from Yancey Porter, my friend, Rebel Yell Hotline, Monday nights at 6 on Sports 56 WHBQ and Super Talk Mississippi. As he said, he calls it Hattiesburg, but That was fun. Brock, Kevin's the only writer in the history of the state of Alabama to be inducted, as he was last April in Houston, the weekend of the Final Four, the United States Basketball Writers Hall of Fame. Also the Birmingham Lede. Scarbo knows, was the beat writer for Auburn for 35 years, but is
4 years, Rob. So hold on, time out.
Wait.
4 years. I was a beat writer for 4 years, and yet there are Alabama people today who are convinced because of that time that I am.
You worked for the Birmingham News for 35 years.
I worked for the Birmingham News. After those first 4 years covering Auburn, and nothing against Auburn, I got a great education. That was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything I've done professionally. But well, you had a great group. I can remember sitting with Tim Floyd in Bartow Arena at UAB when he was coaching UNO. He was telling the story of Irvin Johnson, how they got him out of a grocery store, I believe. He was a grocery store bagger, excellent center. And, of course, John Brady and I go way back to his days at Samford. I visited with John at SEC Basketball Media Days last week.
Yeah.
So, I developed a few relationships with basketball coaches through the years. Not always good or positive at the time if they didn't like things that you wrote, but generally one of mutual respect. So that's basketball has always been my favorite sport, basketball and baseball, because that's what I played growing up through high school.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, and of course that's what a lot of my readers will tell you, that that shows that I don't know anything about football since I never played it. And I used to love when people would say, well, how can you write about football? How can you have any insight into football if you didn't play it? And I said, well, I never built a clock, but I know how to tell time.
There you go.
So going back to Mississippi State, though, this is, it doesn't seem like it on the surface. And no, there are not championships on the line or anything like that in Jordan-Hare Stadium today. This is a critical game for Auburn.
Both.
Yeah. Not just to turn around this season, not just to try to get bowl eligible, but they've dropped now 2 straight to Mississippi State and 2 straight to Ole Miss. And that doesn't happen at Auburn, or it's rare when it happens. Now, they did drop 4 in a row. They lost 4 in a row to the Bulldogs, 97 to 2000. The transition from Terry Bowden to Bill Oliver to Tommy Tuberville, and Jackie Sherrill had it rolling in Starkville. So this is one of those games, and State has been a particular thorn in Auburn's side in those last 2 years. The State game 2 years ago, Doug, I know you remember this.
28-7 lead.
Auburn was in a good position. Auburn was ranked. They'd beaten 2 ranked teams, including Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And they were in the first 2 playoff polls that year. People may not remember that under Brian Harsin. But it was State and that incredible comeback in Jordan-Hare that started that long skid that really was the beginning of the downward spiral of Brian Harsin and his short tenure at Auburn. So, and then last year, all of the positive emotion that was generated when Cadillac Williams took over as interim coach. And yes, it went to overtime, but they still lost. Auburn lost the game in Starkville. So Auburn's not used to losing consecutive games to either State or Ole Miss, certainly not to both at the same time. So it would be a step backward, certainly a huge step backward if Auburn weren't to win today. But this is one of those, you might as well flip a coin, because we don't know what we're going to get from either offense. We don't expect to get much from either offense. Both defenses have played well and are dangerous, but I don't know. This is a very, very important game for both programs, and you guys already mentioned what it means to Zach Arnett and the feeling among the fan base. Yeah,
let's do this. We're going to take a quick break, and I can hear the popping of the catcher's mitts as the bullpens are warming up. One Mississippi State friend of mine said, "I'm feeling shades of 3-2 in 2008." I'm like, I remember watching that game with my kids and my dad, and he goes, "Boy, I was at Auburn in 1950 when Wofford beat us." He goes, "This is about the worst game I've seen since then." And it was a harbinger of things to come. It was kind of scary, but let me say something real quick.
Rob, we got to talk about stealing signals when you come back.
That's what we're getting into. I've got some questions. Absolutely. Brock, stay on with us, man. You're welcome anytime. I love having you on here. Frank Duffy in Big Canoe, the mountains of North Georgia. Frank and Kevin in Birmingham, Doug in Birmingham. I'm here at the Cherry Farm, Cross County, Arkansas. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, folks, out on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. If you are out and about today, or get off the couch, go out there. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast. They're getting the largest Filson order they've ever had. Devil Dog jeans, Old South, largest collection of duck head you will find anywhere. It's like the 70s again. It's unbelievable. Pendleton, Schaefer Outdoors, Hire Boots, Vask, Light Boots. Hire invented the cowboy boot. Over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's cowboy boots. They've got great looking women's clothes. I'm telling you, think of Beth on Yellowstone. She would shop there. But anyway, great looking stuff out there. Awesome stuff for work. They've got duckhead blazers. Charles Hall, his wife, Laura. The owners are great patriots out there on that historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Go shopping there and then go eat at some of the great places that are on the square out there. But proud to have them a sponsor, and they will deliver anywhere, hewlettanddunn.com. We'll take this break, be right back. I'm getting a signal from Doug, and I'm intercepting it, and this is going to be a fun second hour, so hang on.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Browne back here with you in the second hour of Sidelines on this Saturday, October 28th. A lot of great games going on today. Doug, great topic because I love it. I love this discussion. It's unbelievable. You know, we've been talking, and we got Broc Krietz, former Ole Miss linebacker, lives up in Memphis. Kevin Scarbinsky, Hall of Fame basketball writer at the Birmingham Lede, Scarbo knows. Frank Duffy, Mr. LSU Tiger. Go Tigers! Doug Dean, AU Dose in Birmingham. Rob Browne here, Sidelines, and we are at the Cherry Farm. It's a rainy day, which means, and Frank, I told Frank what's on the menu, and I'm going to do it when we get back. But let's get into Doug, and this is a question. It's funny that just came in. So let me get it on here. That comment about the signals. Let's get into this discussion because this is very, very timely.
Yeah, and I'll just warm it up, and everybody can jump in and flesh, put some flesh on the bones. But what we will find out, I guess, in the weeks and months ahead is the following name: Connor Stalions. A nice American name. Sounds like a football player. Yeah. Former U.S. Marine captain, so he's had some probably better training at things like decoding communications than I don't know that, but he may have. But will that name live in infamy, or will it just be an afterthought? And at the heart of this is the question. I think no one who is, rational or fair and reasonable, we all admire and love hearing the stories after a big win or a loss about the film analysis that went into a coaching staff finding some little tell, like how an offensive lineman leans back on his foot when it's going to be a pass protection versus a run play. That's just football. And then you get people. I love this argument you're hearing this week. Well, everybody does it. I know that we probably agree that if everyone started holding armed holdups of banks, we wouldn't suddenly think that was a good idea. And so there's going to be a question of, first of all, Michigan having one of their most dominant years so far, although they hadn't played anybody, they don't need to be cheating from the looks of it. And yet here they sit, 30 games the Stallions bought tickets to and went to. And he didn't just go to them. He specifically purchased tickets with a sideline view, which would allow him to, whether he videoed or just made notes of all right, this was a signal. This was the play I saw, defensively or offensively. And then if you look at Michigan, there's plenty of film out there that this Connor Stallions is a glorified GA, I guess, is standing right beside the offensive coordinator during Michigan games. Now, that's circumstantial evidence, if you ask me. He's standing there to say, here's what I'm seeing, arguably. I mean, that's what the evidence will have to prove or not. So there's no way that the NCAA will adjudicate this before the college football playoff. I think we can agree. And a part of Michigan's strategy would be deny and delay.
Sure.
And then so that do you think the Big Ten is going to want to go? They're going to have a lot of pressure from Ohio State and maybe Penn State and others to do something about it right away if the evidence is there. But I'm just personally, I'm the most interested in if they can sanction and punish. Was it the Houston Astros for exactly that? And we've seen programs cross what we consider reasonable lines on fair play and fair competition, because some of these people that know how to break the code on play calling signals say that once you've got it, it's like catching fish in a barrel, Rob, to be on the sidelines and know what's coming. And if we stay on this topic, there's a couple of well-known games, I'll tell you, that a lot of fans believe that signals had been stolen, 3 or 4 of them, stolen to a degree that questions the fairness of it. Rob, you can pitch to whoever you want to from there.
Yeah. Well, kind of like fishing at Rockbridge.
Yeah.
Right,
well,
so,
without Enigma, we'd all be speaking German right now. So, yeah, if you want to know how important signals are, important.
When is it good coaching and scouting, and when is it cheating?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to throw it to Broc and then Kevin take after that. Broc, Will in Memphis, what is the technical ruling on stealing signals? I talked to, and I'm not going to name him, a friend of mine who's been coaching a while in college football. He said, man, you do anything you can to gain a competitive advantage. But Broc, you know, I know when you were in school, you were there with a lot of guys that were there, but we're not sure. It's kind of like Jefferson, that big lineman in Fast Times at Ridgemont High School. I didn't know he went to Ole Miss. I thought he just flew in on game days. But you know, what about the signals? What as a former player, you know, and I'm curious what you think about this. And it seems like there's a concerted effort, and this is what's going on. The minders that are the people of Ohio State on every network, it's like they don't like Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if it's the birth control glasses he wears or what it is, but I kind of like him.
You know, I don't know if there is a technical rule on stealing signals. I don't think there is, and you know,
there is in NCAA.
There is, okay, yeah. And anyways, I've been associated obviously with football and baseball and different. They're going to do it. And you know, the analogy before is fantastic about robbing banks, and we all do it. But I think a little bit, everybody does it to the extent just to get that edge. And I mean, it's such a competitive world and sport and everything else. Is it right? No. I mean, you know, where do you cut it off? I mean, again, I mean, are you using technology to, you know, to figure this out? Everybody has film. So, I mean, can you study, you know, the signals and everything else that, you know, that are done on the sideline? You know, an answer to that is, you know, you go back to the old days and you run a guy in from the sideline to the quarterback to tell him.
You're going to see more of that.
Yeah. And so anyways, or, you know, just flash a number in and they've got a wristband. So, or they allow the quarterback to have, you know, the technology in his helmet to where they can signal the play in, cut it off like, you know, they do in the NFL, and then, you know, get the play called. So I think it's very difficult to police. I do think to an extent everybody does it. You know, there are worse people obviously than others. You know, it doesn't make it right either way, but I think it's very difficult to police. And, you know, from a regulation standpoint, I think, you know, just make it harder on those signal stealers, for lack of a better term, to be able to do that. So I don't know if that's via, you know, going from, like I said, you know, the technology or whatever.
Rob, here, that's a great take. Just before Kevin jumps in or Duff, here's the NCAA rule in question. that Michigan potentially violated. Article 11, don't you love this? Subsection H of the NCAA rule book, quote, any attempt to record either through audio or video means any signals given by an opposing player, coach, or other team personnel is prohibited.
Yeah,
I wonder how I mean, I guess because you have game film, right? And I mean, you see the sidelines.
Yeah, you can see it on the full 22.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, there are two. That's one part of the rule that's in question here is you can't train, in your stadium, for example, the Auburn Mississippi State game today. Auburn cannot, according to the rules, train a camera on the state sideline to decipher who's making the calls, what the calls mean. So that's the rule that Doug's citing. And then there's another rule, and this has changed during my career, is you cannot scout an opponent in season in person. And that used to happen. When I started in the business, I can remember when I was covering Auburn, Rob, they would send, if they had an off week, if Auburn had an off week, they would send an assistant coach to whoever they were playing. It was upcoming on the schedule. If that team was playing that day, they would send that coach to that stadium to scout them. You can't do that anymore. That changed about 30 years ago. So those are two potential major violations that Michigan has committed by putting this elaborate system together that goes beyond being clever and innovative to outright breaking of the rules. Those are the two things. If they were sending proxies, Connor Stallions was masterminding this elaborate system where they had 40 plus games they were attending in person. They just happened to be teams either in the Big Ten or that Michigan might play in the college football playoff, like Tennessee last year was one example given at the time. So then that's where you're in a problematic area. But everybody is looking for an edge. And there are ways to do that within the rules. And Doug, there are a couple of prominent examples with Auburn. You talk about individual tells. I still can remember after the 2005 Iron Bowl, the honk if you sacked Brody Croyle game, Auburn finished with 11 sacks. And I remember talking to Quentin Groves after the game, Auburn's incredible edge rusher. And him saying that I won't use Alabama's tackle, who got one tackle in particular got abused that day. And Quentin said it was the way he lined up, the pressure he put or didn't put on his right hand in the dirt that told them. This is before every offensive lineman had their hands on their hips and, they were not down in the three-point stance. He said we knew when they were going to pass just by the way that guy lined up. That and the talent of guys like Quentin Groves led to 11 sacks and another win in the Iron Bowl for Auburn. And then another Auburn example, there are people within that program at the time who will tell you that something happened against Florida State in that national championship game. Look at the first half. Auburn, what was it, Doug, 21-3?
Yes.
Yeah, Auburn was rolling.
Almost at will. They were in complete control of the game. And then in the second half, things changed. Florida State will tell you that Auburn had Florida State signals. That's why they were able to shut them down in the first half. Then you saw Florida State they had towels. They were shielding the play signalers on the sideline. That kind of stuff. And that's all within the rules. Everybody does it. And
scouting. Again, nobody's against scouting.
Michigan appears to have gone above and beyond what you are.
Well, they were premeditated.
And then Kevin, I don't want to be pro Auburn here. We're talking about a more important subject, but I've heard many times that maybe Auburn had something on signals in the first half of that Florida State game that clearly changed in the second half. Credit Jimbo Fisher. And remember, Damian Craig had time in Auburn, moved to Florida State. So there's a subplot that's fascinating. Then you'll talk to Auburn people, and I've heard, I'm not going to name names, but assistant coaches who are convinced the first half of that 2010 Iron Bowl in Bryant-Denny, that it was too easy for Alabama's defense. My rebuttal to, Alabama stealing signals in that one is you didn't need to. Gus only ran about 5 plays, Kevin.
Let me throw this out there. I like this. Ike wonder if that's Ike Godsey from the General Store on the most depressing show in TV history, The Waltons. God almighty. Ike in Columbus, Georgia. In the business world, it's called an NDA. Brock, you and I know about that. And any time you work in a law firm, when there's a merger, M&A stuff going on, it's a non-disclosure agreement. And, you also insider trading. There's a lot of things that are ethical, and it's really about the spirit of the game. This is a great discussion, and guys, it's pick'em time. I've got a lot of people that are blowing up my phone. You can send these in on YouTube, but a lot of them are just they're going to text me. I'm trying to type as fast as I can. I can't. I got 53. I'm going to try to get to them. Duke versus Louisville today. Louisville is -6. Anybody want to give us a pick'em on that? We're going to run down about 7 games here. And by the way,
where's it played?
Let me see on here. These would be, I think that is in Louisville.
That's a cry for help game. That's
Riley Leonard's back yet. He's not back yet, is he? For Duke, the quarterback?
He's back, but not 100%.
Yeah, that
I still take Duke.
Yeah. Where's Riley Leonard from, Kevin?
South Alabama, the Mobile area. I forget which high school down there where he played, but he's a terrific athlete. We saw what he did early in the season, that opener against Clemson. He has quietly been one of the better quarterbacks in the country the last year and a half. And he's so important to what they do. If he's not full go, that obviously makes a difference. In that game, I'm more interested in the over-under on Mike Elko replacing Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M.
And by the way, Riley, the QB at Duke, there's a great game day story. His mom sends him text saying, "You suck." And the inside joke on it is, everybody's always telling me how great I am, and I just seem to play tight. And she said, "Well, I'll try the opposite of that. You suck."
He wears a wristband. He wears a wristband with those words on it.
It made him relax and play better. So that's good parenting, Mom.
We like Louisville at home. It's in Louisville. Louisville at home -6.
That's my pick.
Doug said he liked Duke.
Oh no, I like Duke, and you can have the 6.
Okay. All right, let's do another one. Mississippi State at Auburn. Again, warming up in the bullpen. Mississippi State at Auburn.
Don't
Auburn,
play it.
Auburn -6.5. Now, again,
how in the world? I mean, can we score 6.5?
That's my point. That's what I was going to ask. I mean, what? Anybody want to take a jab at that one, or as they say up in the Midwest, you want to take a gander?
Like one analyst said, which is usually the kiss of death. If not today, then when for this Auburn team? Nothing against State. They play a salty defense, but they're not going to overpower you defensively, I don't think. I love how Arnett aligns them. They've got a lot of sacks. So I think look for Auburn you're going to have to throw the ball down the middle. He's going to start Thorne. But I still think Auburn's going to say our calling card, our chance is to just go some tempo, which they've not done. But now today, since Mississippi State's not going to have 80 plays in the game, this is one you can run. You can run tempo and maybe get your run game going, catching them, somebody in conflict, miss an assignment, and Jerquez breaks it for the house like he did a week ago. So I don't like that pick. I wouldn't play this one. I don't wager anyway. But if you make me play, I'm going to take Auburn and lay the 6.5. I think Auburn can finally get in the win column by more than 6.
Yeah, Brock, you and I both know as financial advisors, what's the old term about the market? It's always darkest before dawn. That's how you feel as an Auburn fan, but you also feel that way as a Mississippi State fan. So,
looking at my bond
portfolio,
that is exactly right.
Yes, yeah. Look, in Ole Miss, again, we know exactly what that feels like. So, it's not new to us. My pick on this, I would say Auburn. And I think just from a coaching standpoint, again, Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze obviously have had their differences and stuff like that. But I give credit where credit is due, and Hugh Freeze is a fantastic coach. I think he's going to get this thing, turned around, and I think this is a good place to start. So, anyways, and Look, I am a terrible gambler. I don't do it. I probably need to bring one of my boys in here to tell you, what to take. But anyways, I think I would take Auburn here, and I think it goes more so to the coaching.
Yeah, Kevin, real quick on that one. What do you think about Auburn State?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me clean up. Riley Leonard played at Fairhope High School in South Alabama for a guy that Rob, you and Doug know well, Tim Carter, head coach, former Auburn player, of course. Yeah, and this one you have to lean Auburn. And if Jarquez Hunter can hit, what did he hit last week? 20 miles an hour on that long touchdown run.
He's looking better.
He looked like a different player last week. He took it to another level. If he can run that hard and then create some holes, and that freshman center can duplicate the job he did last week, that guy there,
Connor Lew,
and he's got to go because the other guy's out. So I think Auburn. This is a game where Auburn, and not necessarily a get well game because they are who they are at this point. They're not going to. They're not going to put up 40 or maybe 35 on anybody. But this is a game where they got to get well, and I think they will at least for a week. And
Kevin Freeze in his Monday presser lamented that the very first play, and it's on film, it's easy to check. First play from scrimmage was a called run play. There was a huge crease there, and Robbie Ashford breaks script, pulls the ball out of the mesh, and gets a 3-yard loss on the play. So, and Jarquez was probably going to gash him for 20 or 30 yards, maybe. So they've got to execute when the plays are there.
Yeah, it was not a read option. And again, that's the problem Auburn faces. Neither quarterback gets a long enough run to get in any kind of a rhythm. And there's, look, Peyton Thorne he started at so many games. He's such a veteran. That shouldn't be as much of a problem for him, except he's playing with a new program. Robbie Ashford has not had that luxury. He did more so towards the end of last year, but that's an experience thing. First of all, knowing what the call is, it was not a read option. As you said, Doug, it was a straight handoff. So, those things matter. Those things make a difference.
All right, let me throw another one at you. All right, this is an interesting one. Ole Miss minus 24.5 at home. And Broc, you talk about a trap game. People are talking about that Georgia game. Don't forget, you got Vandy today and Texas A&M next week, Broc. Right, and you're looking at it one chapter at a time.
Look, as an Ole Miss fan, you have to. As soon as the sun shines the brightest, is when it starts storming. So, I wouldn't touch it.
24 is
beat them by 24 is a lot of points, and we seem to kind of there are times we play down to competition or whatever it may be, but I wouldn't touch it if I had to do any of it or take it. I'd probably take Vandy on that, just the makeup of the game. But 24 points is a lot. It doesn't matter in the SEC.
Yeah,
it really is.
Frank, I agree. Frank, I'm just curious what you like on this thing. We're going to do a couple of more minutes on this, then we got a bunch of topics we're going to hit into. But Frank, do you like that pick?
I think you have to take the points. Obviously, I'm not wild about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's laid quite a few eggs this year. But I think Ole Miss is going to get a lead, and they know that they've got bigger to fry. So the problem is, though, you might get a backdoor cover, a late touchdown that could cost you. But I wouldn't play it. But if I had to play it, I would probably take the points.
Okay. One more.
William
Tennessee's
and Mary.
at Kentucky. Tennessee.
Bill and Mary, Rob.
Yeah. Do what?
We're going to pick the William and Bill and Mary game.
Oh, I don't have Bill and Mary. The only other one I wanted to know about, UT at Kentucky. Kevin, you remember that game 2 years ago? It was a night game in Lexington, KYs. Joe Dean would say, little string music from downtown Lexington, KY.
I want first shot at that, Rob. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I want first shot at that one, but finish your thought.
So just remember, that game 2 years ago, Idiot Savant Saturday, the total time of possession for the Tennessee Volunteers was 14 minutes and 47 seconds, I believe, and they won 48-45. Doug, it's like the McLaughlin group. Doug Dean.
Well, I'm not so. I'll let the other guys play the point spread game on that one. Duff studies that more than most of us. But I just want to footnote do we just want Mark Stoops to be thought of as great every year, or is he actually giving us the data to support that? And I don't have any venom for the guy. I think he's ideal for Kentucky. They've always been primarily a basketball program. I know they want to be more competitive in football, and maybe they'll get there. But it just seems like Stoops, when we start talking big about him, you can pretty well count on an egg to be laid not long after. So I'm going Tennessee Vols today.
Well, it's the perfect spot for Kentucky because Tennessee coming off what had to be a devastating feeling walking out of Tuscaloosa last week. Everything was going their way. Really should have been up. Really should have scored 3 touchdowns in the first half. Should have been up by a bigger margin. But to get outscored, completely blanked in the second half, for that game to flip the way it did, and knowing what that game means to both programs in that rivalry, does that light a fire under Tennessee? Does it just demoralize them? What's their mindset going into today? That's to me, that's a big part of that game.
Yeah, it is. And, Loran Smith, legendary sideline reporter with Larry Munson for the Georgia Bulldog Network, also is the host of it's like 2.5 days, their pregame show. It's unbelievable. Loran is, I see him. He's going to join us in a minute. I see the screenshot, but I don't see Loran. And so hopefully Loran can join us in a minute so I can famously say, Loran, what do you got? Well, there, Kevin Scarbinsky, that tailback out of Pottsville, Pennsylvania, he's a load at 6'2", 228, running a 9.500. But I think old Eric Russell going to have a defense ready there in the second half. All right, 81 seconds left. Munson here. I love the great play-by-play guys. They're as good as it gets. All right, let's throw this here, guys.
Cocktail party? We doing that?
Absolutely. We're going to talk about it in just a second. And look, it's just open here. Let's just go wide open. I'm hoping Loran will be on here with us in just a minute. I can't see him yet, but Loran, let's see. This is what we have of Loran right now. It's the empty man formation. Loran, are you there? Loran? Okay. He'll be on with us. I'm hoping it's kind of like the live shot with Larry Bud Melman on the old Letterman show. But let's get it going here, guys. College football, we have covered a lot. So let's throw it out here. And by the way, Frank, Duffy, approval on the menu tonight at the Cherry Farm, these Louisiana boys, beef tongue gravy, and I think it's a machan sauce. How's that sound to you? Plus open bar, of course.
Well, I'm thinking it might be mock shoe, which is a corn.
That's it, mock shoe. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, machan, you got to go down to the Szechuan place for that. But no, little mock shoe with some nice corn and a little sauce on it. So yeah, mock shoe. I love mock shoe. Very nice.
I got it here. All right, so let's open it up now. And y'all, I'm going to throw this question out there. Start with you, Broc. College football players have always transferred. I'm getting a lot of people texting me, and they're saying what I say all the time. We had an Arkansas player, Nathan Perotti, walk-on defensive back, played 18, 19, 20, and 21, was on the show about a month ago. He said, I was there for 1 year of NIL. And he goes, things start falling apart. That locker room can crumble quickly with NIL. Guys start checking out and saying this. Broc, you come down from Naperville, Illinois. You got to learn to eat boiled peanuts. You got to learn to eat, Brunswick stew. You got to learn about life in Mississippi. Your first year coach, he's gone. Then you get an interim coach for a year. He's gone after 1 year. And then you bring in Tommy Tuberville. How many times did you want to hit the quit button and have a pity party and go back home with your tail between your legs? But you'd been taught at the dinner table all your life, great German Catholic family, I might add, never to quit. But talk about how many times you could have just bailed on your teammates and how would you feel today? I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah, no. And I think that's a frustrating part for me with NIL and obviously a guy I played with and great friend of mine, Walker Jones, runs the NIL collective and or the Grove collective, excuse me. And anyways, we've talked and we both have kind of lamented the fact that, it is the reality of today that all this stuff, it doesn't build any type of loyalty. You don't have to work for anything. I mean, you can, commit to one place and then decide, hey, if I can go somewhere else that's better, and get more money, then I can go there and no repercussions. And again, I know the argument about the business world and everything else. This isn't, technically, this isn't the business world. It's kids' lives. It's a game. There's schools and everything else involved. A lot of people involved in it. And to the earlier point about, what it does in the locker room, I mean, I think that's huge because, as you bring these guys in from, high school, and again, you get some transfers. We all had transfers or whatever it may be, but they had to sit out a year. I mean, that was non-negotiable unless there was a hardship, which was rare. And so you had to earn, kind of, your spot. And when you were there, you were committed and whatever it may be. And there are plenty of times, I mean, you want to quit, just hang it up and just say, forget this. And I'm going to just be a student. But I mean, like you said, it's just one of those things that you kind of grew up with, you were taught well. And, if you get that cohesion in that locker room, it's very powerful. And I mean, you can win games that you shouldn't win. Right. And then on the flip side of that, if you've got a terrible locker room and you've got, the talent of, Alabama or say even USC, which is a great example, I think, you fall apart. I mean, you guys don't play together. It becomes a me and individual game. And so, I hope they figure it out, with NIL and the transfer portal. I mean, it's kind of the Wild West right now. And, to me, I always thought that, hey, you got a scholarship, free education, and you were treated like a king for 4 or 5 years. That's, to me, that's pretty good payment. But, I know the world is different today. And I just hope they get things together. They have some, good regulations and whatever it may be, but they get this thing figured out because right now I don't think it's good for college sports. I mean, I think college sports is the greatest thing, going right now, but it also, is heading towards that ledge of the slippery slope where it could get really bad quickly. So again, that's my hope. And to the extent of just having, team players and building those relationships and everything else, there's kind of nothing like that. And let's just hope we get some things figured out. But anyway, so I will say Lane Kiffin has been very good at it. He doesn't like it either, which is pretty interesting. You listen to him, all these coaches are begging for regulation, which, I'm no fan of, but I think in this extent, you got to have rules. I'll give credit. I think that's where Lane has had a lot of success. He was an early adopter of it. And that's one of those things, hey, just because I don't necessarily like it, I'm going to do it because it makes a lot of sense. And he was the first mover. And so he's had a lot of success doing that. And I think, he's kind of mastered that, but we'll see what happens. I know Walker Jones had testified. A bunch of those guys testified in kind of front of Congress over the NIL stuff, and we'll see where it comes out. But it needs to get under control.
Yep. Yeah. Somebody jump on that one. That was a great take.
Right. Well, I was looking at some of the games that could be interesting. I hope not, because I'm really pulling for Bo Nix this year. But to me, a little bit of an upset alert. Oregon at Utah, both of them 6-1. Oregon's a 6.5 point favorite. But to go, that's weird when you go there. That elevation. Utah's a mentally tough team. They're typically veteran. We already talked about Kyle Whittingham, who doesn't get enough praise, and he gets a lot of praise, but maybe still not enough. So I would be worried if I'm an Oregon fan going into that spot.
Yep, upset alert.
Well, sure. Bo Nix is a perfect example of when a transfer works. He needed a change of scenery. He wasn't going to be the quarterback he could be. He wasn't going to hit his ceiling at Auburn, given the coaching staff there. He found the right place at the right time, and now he's the quarterback who started more games than anyone in college football history at that level. He's had just tons of success. They're in the national championship hunt again, although that's kind of an elimination game today. Doug, as you mentioned, at Utah with both teams having one loss. And look at how many of the quarterbacks of teams just in the Pac-12, how many of those quarterbacks are transfers. Michael Penix at Washington. It's unbelievable what he's done. Caleb Williams at USC. He's a transfer, and which reminds me of that just absolutely absurd idea that he should shut it down because the national championship is now out of their reach, and he's probably not going to win the Heisman. Oh my goodness! I mean, if that's the criteria, that you've got to be in the Heisman chase, or you've got to be in the national championship hunt, or it's not worth continuing to play, what are we even doing here? Who was that? Emmanuel Acho that said that suggested that after USC lost to Utah, their second loss, and he actually said he should really think about make a business decision. I'm sorry. I understand that it was inevitable that players were going to have to get a bigger cut of the pie. As coaching salaries escalated, as these opulent, elaborate facilities kept being built. But so, yes, it's more of a business than ever. But if you are making decisions on whether to play or not, based on whether you can win a championship or you can win an individual award, maybe you're in the wrong place. Maybe you're in the wrong sport.
That follows what Broc said, where college football in just 10 years' time, in just a decade, went from teaching some of life's best lessons to teaching some of life's worst lessons.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, guys, we all know, and just in, probably all of us we've had experiences. If you, as an individual, as a professional, whatever your profession, if you're just chasing the dollar, is that going to give you the most satisfaction in your life? Is that going to make you the happiest? Is that going to put you in a position where you're a better father, you're a better husband? No, not necessarily. So that's a life lesson, Frank, that a lot of adults have learned, that chasing the dollar, we all want to do better. We all want to provide for our families to the best of our ability, but just chasing the dollar, that sometimes leads you down the wrong path.
Correct.
Yeah. The other thing is about it, when you think about like Broc's, journey at Ole Miss. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, 3 coaches in 5 years, and he's a starter, and they were on probation. I mean, you had every imaginable reason to hit the quit button. And it's like, I've always been told, and I tell every the kid I've ever volunteer coached, Broc, you coach football. I did it 14 years at St. Louis Catholic School in Memphis. Said, if you quit out here because this is too tough, you will quit everything tough the rest of your life. I know you're only 12, but you've got another 80 plus years, hopefully, to go. You better decide right now what journey you're going to take. And I can't imagine what these reunions are going to be like, the 10 and 20 and 30 year reunions going forward into the future. When you get everybody together and they're trying to talk about their experiences. Some of them were there for 6 weeks, or some of them were there for 5 years. But compared to Broc's group of guys that are as close as it gets. Now, I'm not going to say, like my brother-in-law, Kurt Ham, 26 years in the Marine Corps. I love his picture on his monitor of his computer. He's kneeling forward, holding his M16. His pants are shredded up, covered in blood. He's exhausted. And I asked him after the Tennessee-Florida game last month up at his house, kind of put things in perspective. I said, where was that? He said, Fallujah. I said, how many hours did you go without sleeping, without eating, without stopping as a gunnery sergeant and a warrant officer in that battle? He looked at me and he said, 60 hours straight.
Yep.
And he's leaning forward on his deal. And he's the most humble guy in the world, but he is so close. He does Bible study. He gets up at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. He's, he deals with what he deals with, but he's as good a guy as you'll find. But he's close. That group of guys, I know he loves Audrey and his 2 brothers and his mother and his late father, but I bet you when he gets around those guys he went through.
Oh, no doubt.
And you think about what Broc went through. Kevin, you moved down here. You grew up in Pottsville. You think about the people, Frank, Doug, me, that you go through hell with. I mean, think about it, Broc. How many times have we told our clients on the front end, there are going to be times you're going to be so mad the stock market's getting the crap beat out of it, you're going to want to throw a brick through my window. And I always tell them, when you do that, tape the check to the brick and sign it, then throw it through the window. We'll buy more shares when things are on sale. But you are closest with the people that you experience the toughest of times with. Doug Dean is a great writer. I think about anybody on this panel, you will never be close to people that walked out on you. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that's what NIL is. You've already got, Broc, you're part of the Letterman's Club at Ole Miss. You can't say you're part of that club unless you've got that, built-in credibility. And that's, Kevin,
Right.
You as a great writer, you know that, Doug, Frank. So I think this was a cool discussion. Let's get in now to the Florida-Georgia game. I want to get thoughts from everybody on that. World's largest outdoor cocktail party, 2:30, 3:30 Eastern today on CBS. And guess who is with us now? Loran Smith, the man, the legend down there. What do you got, Loran? You're down there for the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. And this game is immortalized because of you and what you do as the patriarch of Georgia and Southern football, a great writer. You've got another book on the national championship team at Georgia. But, man, we got Kevin Scarbinsky, the Birmingham lead, Broc Krietz, former Ole Miss linebacker, who played against Georgia in '96 between the hedges. Remember when he and Walker Jones ran down Hines Ward? I wonder what your reaction was as the sideline man. Doug Dean in Birmingham and Frank Duffy in the mountains of North Georgia. But let's talk some college football. Welcome.
Can we talk about
mute? Yeah, you're on mute, Loran. Whoops. Let's see.
There he goes.
Loran, unmute your mic. Okay. Yeah, Loran, take the mute button off. Can you hear us, Loran? Okay. Doug, keep going while he's trying to unmute it.
Yeah, and Lauren's a perfect one to have. He'll probably like my pick. If we got a second to look at this great, yet another cocktail party, and whoever wants to end that name, grow up. Drink responsibly, right? Yeah. Not that will happen today, but you know what? I just got nothing against Florida, but I've just got a suspicion that there is a reason. Think about this: that Bryce Young committed to Alabama only after Carson Beck decommitted and ends up at Georgia. Of course, not to start, but no one's complaining at Georgia with what Stetson Bennett did back-to-back years. But I just think Carson Beck, ironically enough, because he cannot have a pacifier to throw to Brock Bowers, and Auburn people more than most can lament how good that player is. I hate that he's out. Hope he gets back quick. But Carson Beck will have no choice but to spread the ball around. And that, I think, adds up to Georgia being less predictable offensively. And meanwhile, Florida wants to run the ball mainly, and they picked the wrong defense to try to do that against Georgia. So I just got a feeling it's a 14-point spread, I believe. I don't know if there's a hook on that with a half point. But I would take Georgia reluctantly and lay the points.
Loran Smith, what do you got? Loran, unmute your mic if you can. All right. Yeah, Loran, can you unmute your mic? Okay, let's see.
There,
Loran.
goes.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. Yeah, just if he would unmute his mic. I don't know. We're having some technical problems there, but I think you're right about how Carson Beck's going to be throwing that ball all around, and as the game goes on, it should be a lot of fun. And when Loran comes back on, I want to get his take on this. Y'all somebody jump on this one. That's Loran calling me now.
Well, you're going to have a talent disparity is what's going to happen on the field today. I mean, it just is, right? Georgia's talent level goes 2 and 3 deep.
That's what
so much more than Florida. Okay, Florida being able to stay close in this, the only way they're going to be able to do that is if they can get Spurrier back on the sideline and Sexy Rexy and some of those old players. Georgia has just too much for them, in my opinion. And you saw what Florida did with Kentucky. I think you're going to get a lot more of that with Georgia. And look, some teams get better when your star player goes down. You kind of get a little complacent sometimes when you got that big boy down there in the 20, red zone. You're going to have other players that are going to step up, and I think you're just going to see the talent of Georgia rise again. I think they easily cover the 2 touchdowns.
Okay. And as if Kirby needs another advantage, all week long, everyone's saying Georgia's not going to be number one in the first playoff poll on Tuesday. They're not going to be number one. They're going to
disrespect.
I've seen people predict them as low as 5 and 6 in this first playoff poll. And Kirby is great at taking any perceived disrespect and using it to motivate his team even more so. Not that they need motivation. It is Georgia, Florida. But that's going to be a dangerous Georgia team today. Graham Mertz, again, talk about underrated players. Graham Mertz has done a fantastic job at quarterback for Florida. And they've got a really talented group of young receivers, but they'll have to play out of their minds today, I think, for Florida to win that game.
Great. Yeah. I don't think it's close.
Broc, you don't think it's going to be – you think Georgia's that dominant?
I mean, they were just so deep. And, I mean, again, they just keep winning.
Yeah.
It's
Loran Smith. No. I mean to say, Loran, you're unmuted now. Let's go ahead and get your take on this world's largest outdoor cocktail party. We ain't PC on the sideline show, but you're down in Jacksonville. What do you got, Loran? All right, Loran, you got the hit the unmute button.
Unmute, brother.
Hit unmute. Let's see if we can get that to be done. But Loran, jump on whenever you can. But Broc, you were making a point. Georgia that dominant, even without the guy. Loran, just jump on in whenever you get that undone. Broc? Yeah. Broc, you were making
there, it's that point of depth. Most SEC teams or just even, big college teams, they have a great first starters. And then, the question just comes in when you get to 2 and 3 deep, and Georgia's just one of those teams that, again, you may be spurring the, next all SEC tight end. Who knows? Or receiver it may be that's sitting behind Broc Bowers. So, their talent is just, it's much better than most. Let's just put it that way. So, I know people are excited that, hey, as an Ole Miss fan, we're playing him in a couple of weeks, and that guy's hopefully not going to be playing against us. But you got to be careful what you ask for. And
to that point, Broc, the next tight end, Oscar Delp, was a big time recruit, and he's next
number one in the country,
so
probably.
It's not like Georgia wasn't exactly a one-man team before this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's So, anyways, and again, I hope I'm a fan of Broc Bowers. I just love to watch him play. He's just a gritty kid, and hope it's quick recovery and everything else. But we get to face the next 5-star. So pick your poison.
Yeah. Loran, jump on in whenever you're available. Yeah, we undo the mute button.
I'm gonna steal his signals, Loran. If you can just mouth that, I'll tell him what you're saying.
I don't know. We're having some technical problems. But
Rob, what he said was that there's going to be a hobnail boot or something like that.
Yeah, he just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot, broke his nose. Michael Haynes, my God, Georgia's gone
you
the
had
length
one
of the
job,
field.
Loran.
David Green. Loran, you jump on in when you can, okay? But I think, looking at this game, and Broc, I like your reference to Broc Bowers. He came out of Napa, California. I think he was a running back, and now, he's a tight end. But have we seen anybody like this? I hate that he's hurt now because he really, to me, should be going to New York for the Heisman Trophy. He's that dominant a player based on what he did his first 2 years.
Yeah.
As a player, the guy can do. He's their receiving game. He's their receiving game, and it's unlike anything that I've ever seen. Doug, you look at Georgia, Florida, just like Kevin and Frank and Broc and Loran. Loran, if you can hear us, just jump on in. Undo the mute button.
How about now?
There we go.
All right there, Loran, what do you got there down there in Jacksonville, Florida? Dogs, Gators.
We have 3 minutes left,
today.
Loran.
Well, I'm sorry. I punched everything on the screen. Obviously, I don't know anything about machinery or technology, and I apologize. But that's my Georgia education, I guess you could say.
Have you?
Well, guys, happy to be with you. I don't know what I'm doing in this August lineup, but I'll tell you what I know, what I think, and that ain't worth much. But I think you have to go into every game with the positives that you see internally. And those positives to me are several, including everything to do about Georgia's head coach, Kirby Smart. I don't see how anybody could be any more in tune with doing the job he has to do. Now, what happens in these situations, and I can reflect on it in several games involving Georgia in the past. In 1981, following the national championship season, we played at Clemson, turned the ball over 9 times, and still had a chance to win the game late in the game. So I think in this game today, Georgia has the advantage from the standpoint of seasoned personnel, momentum. But if we go out and lay an egg, play poorly, if we don't execute all the coach speak stuff we're familiar with through the years and give Florida the advantage, it turns into an emotional high watermark for them. And then they could do damage. But I just don't see this team just totally laying an egg at this point, except for one thing. You got to realize that if you've won as much as Georgia's won, and in the situation that the team is in, you're going to see games, regardless of who, like last week with Vandy, early on, defensive mistake in the backfield. They hit us with a bomb, and they played their buns off. They fought like hell. They felt like they had a chance to win the game. Now, who can complain about that? They're great American red-blooded boys, and they want to win. They want to make you prove you're number one. Georgia's going to get everybody's best shot. But I would put Kirby up against any coach in the country in terms of.
You're talking about in terms of a motivator? Yeah. Okay, Loran. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
I was just going to say, I agree with you, Loran. Complacency is not a disease from which Kirby suffers. He does everything to motivate that team to have them playing well. They're not going to sleepwalk through a game. And like we were talking about earlier, the disparity between the second and third string talent on Georgia and what Dan Mullen left for, the cupboards in Florida, it just, Billy Napier he just doesn't have the horses that Kirby has. And you're going to see that on display. And this is not circa 1981, 80. This is not the Spurrier years when he, wore out, Georgia. This is going to be a tough game for Florida. They've already laid an egg against Kentucky. I'm sure that's going to be in the back of their mind. And look, if they don't win a turnover battle, I don't think it's going to be close.
Yeah. Loran, we've lost your picture, but we see the round circle. So jump in this conversation if you're still with us. Hopefully he's there. But anyway, all right. So you're talking about Kirby Smart, what he always says as a motivator. Broc, if you've got a good team, you can look like a great motivator. If you've got a team that doesn't have a lot of talented players, how much is too much when it comes to the pregame, give them hell, win one for the Gipper speech?
I don't know. I always like the guys that said the least amount, but, that was real. The fake rah-rah speeches were, never our forte, I guess. And you tend to tune them out and start thinking about something else when, they go on and on. But
they don't survive the first bullet whistling past your ear.
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
How do you rank Al Pacino's pregame speech in Any Given Sunday? I want that guy that's willing to go the extra 6 inches, who's willing to die. That was Al Pacino. Let's admit, he's a great actor. I mean, is there any better scene ever than when he goes to confession and he says, "Father, I have killed." He goes, "Oh, tell me more, my son." He goes, "My brother." He goes, even the priest couldn't take that. But all of y'all, Loran, jump back in if you can. Can you hear us, Loran? technical difficulties down there in Jacksonville. But let me throw it at y'all, all of y'all. First off, we're about out of time. Broc, thank you so much for taking time with us. This is awesome. Kevin Scarbinsky, always cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Doug Dean, ditto. Frank Duffy, ditto. Loran Smith, what do you got there? We got to get him back on more often because it's just repetition, working that mute button or something. Little technical issue we'll work through. But you know what's cool today? We're all gonna be watching college football. And you know what? There's two things I've never seen in my life. I really haven't. I've never known anyone that renounced their American citizenship and moved away from America. That's never happened. Number two, I don't know anyone who's ever quit cheering for their team even if they lose. I mean, is that what makes college football so cool?
Well, I've had plenty of practice.
Kevin, what's the Birmingham lead? Tell people how they can follow you and keep up with you, because I like what Broc said. There are times when we're ready to hang it up, but we never do, because that moment, there's a kick six, there's Broc and Walker chasing down Hines Ward in midfield. As Tommy Tuberville said, when he writes his book about his football career, that's going to get its entire chapter unto itself. Kevin, what do you got?
Yeah, the players always save the game. You know, the work they put in that we don't see, the plays they make that we do see on Saturdays. That's why we tune in. That's why we watch. That's why it matters. And today will be no different. Different guys and different teams and different stadiums will make
Hey, am I
plays.
back, Rob?
That will be history.
Yeah. Kevin, and how do they follow you real quick? And then we'll go to Loran.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter /X at Kevin Scarbinsky, Birmingham Lede, LEDE.com. You can subscribe to my weekly columns, or you can get my newsletter. Go to al.com/sports to find that.
Okay. Loran, let's talk real quick, a few minutes we have left, about this Georgia-Florida matchup. I just got to say, I know one of the most positive people ever, motivators, Larry Munson. What would Larry be saying about this game today in Jacksonville? You worked with him from 1972 until he retired in 2008. So you got some cool stories, and you're still part of the Georgia Football Network pregame show, one of the best in America.
Well, I don't know what Larry would say, but it would have been spectacular, I guess. He would have come up with something that would have been appropriate. But I was trying to say before an incoming call knocked me off, and I couldn't find my way back. I think the positives for Georgia are, one, they're a well-coached team. Now, I know I see them every day, and I know I'm a partisan Bulldog fan. But I think the classic example of what Kirby Smart's strengths are, he coaches fundamental disciplined football. For this Georgia team to go into Auburn, which was primed to play its best game of the year and may well have, they were tough that day. And that's what you got to be prepared to do, is beat your opponent on the day they play their best. But in that environment, nobody jumped off sides. There was not a motion penalty. There was not a foolish 15-yard penalty. To be able to do that means you're really well coached. And remember, at that time, Stetson Bennett was, our quarterback, Carson Beck, was really, surefire rookie at the time. And he's gotten better and better since then. So the key to the game is simply don't turn the ball over. And you can have a coach say this every dadgum game on the schedule. I realize it's that older than the hills, but you don't beat yourself. You don't shoot yourself in the foot. And Kirby Smart's teams have been able to do that. So what's required of Georgia today is to play a sound, fundamental game. Don't give up the big play. And I think Georgia's experience and depth should give them an advantage, which is why Las Vegas has the point spread being what it is. But you go out there and turn the ball over, anything can happen.
Don't give them a short field.
Doug.
Well, Loran, I appreciate his knowledge of the history of not just Georgia football, but the SEC. And he brings a what's the right word, composure to call. He's not taking his Florida team for granted because he's seen what can happen in big emotional rivalry. I love what he said, that if Florida has a few good things happen early, all of a sudden it becomes an emotional game and the favorite doesn't always win. But I think you got to go with Georgia for a lot of reasons today.
Yeah. Larry, do you think we might have a moment in this game when Munson would say, you just think about this. We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. What was your reaction, by the way, when he said that up in Neyland Stadium? Did you, after a while, were you just never surprised?
Well, you got to remember that Munson had a flair for the dramatic, but he had been at Vanderbilt all these years, and he'd never seen anything like what he saw at Georgia under the Vince Dooley teams, which always found a way to win. Most always. You can't say he was perfect anymore. You can say that about any coach. But if the two teams are balanced, and then you can take it one step further. On a given day, a team may be as balanced as you are based on effort and performance. I think if Georgia does not have an abundance of turnovers, they should have the advantage in the second half, fourth quarter. But the game may not play out that way. I mean, you could just see it in Vanderbilt the last time out. They hit us for a bomb. And then they got so inspired, they just fought like, the proverbial dogs to win the dadgum game. They felt they had a chance. You want that in college athletics. That's great. And I listened to the show talking about NIL. I just want to throw this out. When is somebody going to say to the NFL, if you want this game to continue like it is, you got to pony up? Why do the alumni have to pony up? It's the most odd thing in the world. We give the NFL what Major League Baseball pays millions for. When is somebody going to challenge the NFL to get on board? We're all friends we have friends in the NFL. We coach our players. Look, play well here, and you're going to have a golden opportunity down the road. But somewhere along the line, NIL has brought about an inequitable situation, and I think the NFL could be part of the solution rather than the problem, which they now may well be because they don't pay anything for what they get.
Yeah. Hard to put
Loran,
the genie back in the box.
That's the truest thing I've heard said in a while. I mean, NFL, hey, why don't you step up? Because the alumni are being asked to triple hit, buy season tickets, pay premium for the better seats, and then NIL. I mean, Broc, you got two kids in college. Mine are all out, but you don't give your kids in college this kind of money. It's tough for someone to ask you to give them money to someone else's kids, and considering they're already on scholarship. Is it? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think originally when this whole NIL thing came together, I mean, I was behind the idea. They talked about this, and they had come to kind of a proposal to where every scholarship player would get a certain amount of money each and every year that they were there. The money would go into a trust or an escrow, and then when they graduated, left to school or whatever, they received that money, which I was a huge fan of because, I mean, again, just all of us, broke college student, looking for a job. And I mean, you got $25,000, $50,000, whatever it may be. That's a nice head start. And, just to get you a car or, a house or, anything just along those way, but it gives you an incentive to see it all the way through. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, because if whatever the rules were, if you didn't finish, I forget what the exact rules were, but whatever happened, it got shot down, and now we have the Wild Wild West. And, again, and I don't have a problem with kids making money by any sense of imagination, but it's out of control. And at some point you got to have these rules. And I mean, I think the idea as far as the NFL paying their fair share, because they get to ride this thing for free. I mean, they're getting these great athletes for nothing. But I don't know if that would make it worse just because they're going to contribute more money, or, again, I think that at the end of the day, you have to have something that's balanced, that all schools can compete with. And, again, I'm all for capitalism and people, getting their fair share and earning what's worth them. But there's a balance. And right now it's way out of balance.
Yeah, it really is. Look, guys, unfortunately, we've just run out of time. We went over a little bit today, but unbelievable roundtable. Wasn't quite sure what was going on with Loran there. He was walking around. I'm not sure. But God almighty, man. I love him. He is so, I love the conversations I have. He's from Wrightsville, Georgia. And he remembers going in there to the coaches and saying, Coach, we got us a youngster down there as a junior in Wrightsville named Herschel Walker. And he said, Coach Dooley, Matt Cavanaugh, and all them were like, y'all don't even have a stoplight down there in Wrightsville. He goes, well, you ought to see him. He goes, and surprisingly, 2 weeks later, in the front cover of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, in the sports section, there was Wrightsville Junior runs 9,500. And all of a sudden, I wasn't the brunt of all their jokes anymore. And they went down there, and he signed with Georgia after Sunday lunch on Easter Sunday in 1980. And well, you know what happened after that there.
And Rob, I know Georgia's proud to have the second greatest running back in the history of college football.
You're just lucky Lauren's still in. hey, but I got to tell you, Broc, I got a bunch of people texting me too saying, Broc, Mallory and Smyrna, Broc needs to be teaching these values to young kids. And as a thank you, Broc, and we got to get you back on here again as often as you can be with this roundtable. Kevin, thank you so much again. Doug, Frank, Loran, everybody that's been on here, because I think what we get the point is, as Buddy Martin always says, who owns college football? The fans do. I'm liking Buddy's deal. Lauren's deal about let's get the NFL to pay for this NIL. I think we ought to give it a shot. But look, we'll do it again next week. Everybody go out and have a blessed time. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. It is we the people, not we the government. Don't ever forget it. Have a great day. We are out of here.
Thanks, guys.